Welcome to the CEO Soapbox Podcast, where we cut through the fluff and get into what actually helps a business grow and run better. I am your host, Neda Farzad, and today we're talking about something way too many leadership teams accept as normal. And if you ever worked with me, you know this topic gives me a big eye twitch. Yep, we're talking about meetings. But we're talking about meetings that take time, drain energy, and produces absolutely nothing useful. Not no value, not even some value. I mean, yes, people talk, people update, people explain, people defend, and people nod. And then everyone walks out, and somehow the business is still stuck with the exact same problem. That's what we are getting into today, because I'll be honest with you, a lot of meetings in growing businesses are not there to drive business forward. They are there to create a feeling that leadership is happening. And those are not the same thing. A lot of teams are having regular meetings, weekly leadership meeting, sales meeting, ops meeting, commercial meeting, service meeting, project meeting, pipeline meeting, performance meeting. Fantastic. And yet, decisions are still slow. Problems still bounce around. The same issue comes back next week wearing a different shirt. And everyone is so busy being in communication that no one notices that they are not actually running their bloody business properly. So today I want to challenge one of the most accepted habits in leadership. You see, updates are not leadership. Talking about work is not the same as moving the work or doing the work. And a meeting that doesn't create a decision is usually more expensive than people realize. We're going to talk today about why most meetings are not helping nearly as much as people think. We're going to talk about the hidden cost of update culture. We are going to talk about the difference between a discussion and a decision. We're going to talk about what I believe are, in my opinion, being around doing business for 25 years, a proper decision meeting should actually do. And we're going to talk about a practical framework. Who doesn't want that you can use to stop meetings from wasting time and start making them useful again. So, just to be clear, this is not about becoming robotic. That's not what I'm talking about, okay? It's not about stripping out the human conversation. And it's definitely not about becoming one of those leaders who thinks being efficient means being cold. This session is about clarity. It's about ownership. It's about movement in the business and respecting people's time enough to stop dragging them into rooms that don't change anything. So, if your calendar is packed, your leaders are tired, your team keeps saying they're flat out, and yet the business still feels slower than it should, this episode is for you. Now, let's get into it. So first, I want to talk about what is obvious, the real problem with most meetings. You see, most meetings are not broken because people are lazy. They are broken because nobody has been taught what the meeting is actually for. So what happens? A meeting gets scheduled because this could be the reason. We need to catch up. We need alignment. We should get everyone in a room. Let's run through it. Let's touch base. That language sounds harmless. And if you says it and you think, I've said that, it sounds harmless, but it's vague as hell. And vague meetings create vague outcomes. If I walk into a meeting and I don't know whether we are there to share information or solve a problem or make a decision or remove a blocker or review performance or challenge a plan, then I already know we are about to burn time and waste money and waste resources, because now the room is improvising. And the problem with improvised leadership is that the loudest person usually shapes the room, or the most detailed person, or the most defensive person, or the person with the most slides. Not necessarily the right person, not necessarily the smartest point, and not necessarily what the business actually needs right now, or the whole purpose of this meeting. Just whoever fills a vacuum. That's why you get those meetings where one person gives 5-minute update that turns into 12. Then someone else jumps in with the context. Then someone else asks a side question, right? And then somebody starts explaining history from 6 months ago. And then one team starts subtly blaming another team. And then you've got 15 minutes left and somebody says, so what are we actually doing? That's not leadership, that's a drift. And drift is expensive because every time a meeting fails to produce an outcome, one of 3 things usually happens. Number 1, the issue gets delayed. Number 2, the wrong person ends up owning it. Number 3, the business pretends it has dealt with it when it hasn't. That third one is the killer. Because this is what businesses do all the time. They confuse discussion with progress. We talked about it. Oh, we're aware of it. Or it was raised in the meeting. Or we are across it. Or it's been worked through. Cool. But what changed? What decision got made in that meeting? Do you know who owns it? And by when? What happens next? What are we no longer doing? What are we now committed to? If a meeting can answer those questions, it probably didn't produce an outcome. It produced noise. And look, I'm not saying every meeting needs to end with a fireworks and dramatic breakthrough. That's not what I'm saying. Some meetings are for review, I agree. Some are for problem solving. Some are for escalation. And some are for the genuine discussion. But even then, with all of that, the room should still be able to say, this is why we were here. This is what came out of it. This is what happens next. If not, the meeting was likely just a ritual. And business gets addicted to ritual because ritual feel organized. But organized and effective are not the same thing. So now I want to talk about why update culture is killing leadership. And that's my least favorite thing in the leadership team, the update meeting. You know the one? Everyone goes around the table, sales gives an update, then marketing gives an update, then it's operation team to gives their update. Then finance gives an update. And sometimes HR gives update too. Everybody reports what they've been doing. Everyone sounds busy. There are lots of words and maybe a few matrices get thrown around and some slides. And at the end, everyone feels like they've had a productive hour because a lot was said. But let me be blunt. Updates are not leadership. A room full of updates it's often just a room full of people describing activity. And activity on its own tells me nothing. You can be flat out and still ineffective. You can be buried in effort and still be avoiding the hard decisions. You can have a packed calendar and still be leading badly. I've seen leadership teams spend hours every week reporting on things that should have been written in a dashboard, on a Slack, a note, or a quick message. That's the first problem. If information could have been shared without dragging 6 highly paid people into a room or Zoom, then that should have happened. A meeting should not be the first place people hear basic information unless that information genuinely needs real-time discussion. The second problem is this. Update culture trains leaders to perform business instead of driving outcomes. So instead of saying, here's the problem, here are the options, and here's a decision I need, people say, here's everything I've been doing. Here's all the context. Oh, hang on, here's the backstory. Here's the nuance. And here's the challenge. Here's why it's complicated. And before you know it, the meeting becomes a place where leaders justify effort instead of creating movement, a decision. That's a massive mindset issue, in my opinion. Because once that becomes the norm, the business starts rewarding a wrong behavior. And you know it, right? It rewards that kind of thing. It rewards being across lots of things instead of resolving key things. It rewards sounding informed instead of being decisive. It rewards reporting activity instead of shifting outcomes. And this is where a lot of CEOs get trapped because they think, my team is communicating, Neda. My team is engaged. My team is across the business. Maybe. But are they deciding? Are they escalating properly? Are they solving the right problems? Are they making trade-offs? Are they using leadership time to move the business forward? That's the real test. Because a leadership meeting should not feel like a school assembly where each department gives a little speech. It should feel like a room where business gets steered. That's a different energy. And you know that, right? That's not, here's what I've been up to. That's, here's what matters. Here's where we're off track. Here's the decision required. Here's the trade-off, and here's what we are doing. Very, very different thing. And I think a lot of businesses would become dramatically more effective. And this applies to small businesses all the way to Fortune 500 and 100. I think a lot of businesses will become dramatically more effective if they simply ban spoken updates unless they were relevant to a decision. That sounds harsh, I know, but honestly, good. Because sometimes you need to be ruthless with time. Not because people don't matter, because people do matter. Dragging smart people through repetitive, bloated, unfocused meetings every week is not respectful leadership. It's a lazy system design. So, here's the part that some people won't love, and I get it. So, are you ready? I believe, in my opinion, some meetings do not need to be fixed. They need to be killed. Not improved, not trimmed, not made more engaging, not moved from 60 minutes to 45 minutes. Killed. Because there are businesses running recurring meetings simply because no one has had a gut to ask, why the hell are we still doing this? Or they thought about it, but they can't ask it. We've always had this meeting. The team expects it. It helps us stay aligned. It's useful to have a touch point. Is it though? Is it? Or are you just emotionally attached to this ritual? Look, I'm not anti-meetings. I am anti-pointless meeting. If a meeting repeatedly does not produce clarity, decision, or movement, then it's not neutral. It's a cost. It costs salary, it costs focus, it costs energy, it costs decision speed, it costs momentum, and worse, it teaches the business that wasted time is normal. And that becomes culture. And we all know, right? You as a CEO, managing director, as a leader, as a business owner, you know when leaders tolerate crap meetings, the whole business learns that inefficiency is just how things work around here. And then people wonder why execution feels muddy. Well, because the company is being trained to tolerate mud. I've seen businesses where the weekly leadership ran for 2 hours. And to be honest, I was in it. Every week, 8 senior people. And when you looked at what actually came out of it, there were barely any real decisions. Just discussions, commentary, some posturing, some updates, and a few let's take that offline moments. Oh, you know those ones? That's not a leadership meeting. That's just an expensive group chat. And before anyone says, but collaboration matters, Neda, yes, it does. Yes, it does. I'm not saying eliminate conversation. I'm saying stop pretending every conversation deserve a standing calendar invite. Some issues need a working session. Some need one owner. Some need a 2-person decision. Some need a short escalation. Some need written review. Some do not need a meeting at all. That's leadership maturity, not throwing everything into a recurring meeting just because that's the easiest admin solution. Honestly, one of the most useful things a CEO can do is audit every recurring meeting in the business and ask, what is this meeting for? What decision came out of it? What would break if we stopped doing it today? Could this be handled another way? Are the right people in it? Is the frequency justified? That exercise alone, my friend, can expose a ridiculous amount of waste. Because the truth is, most businesses are not suffering from people problem. They're suffering from meeting bloat disguised as communication, collaboration, and solution and all the other crap they give it. So, let's talk about, you're probably thinking, okay, so if you're so good at it, what should we do? I've got you covered, my friends. So let's talk about what a good meeting actually looks like first, because I don't want to just rant about the bad ones. A good leadership meeting does not try to cover everything. It's just not possible. That's a mistake number one. You see, the purpose of leadership meeting, it's not to prove everyone is working hard. It's not to admire dashboards. It's not to listen to the polished updates. And it's definitely not to become a dumping ground for every issue in the business. A good leadership meeting should do a few things really well. First, it should focus attention on what matters most right now. Not every issue, not every department details, the things that are most important to the business in this moment. Second, it should surface where decisions are needed. Not every discussion is possible. Where decisions are needed. This is very important. Third, it should force clarity. So, what I mean by that is, what is the actual problem? Very clear. Clarity is your friend, my friend, in the meeting. What does it matter? What options do we have? What are the trade-offs? Who decides? What happens next? That's the third one. Fourth, it should create ownership. That means no vague language. What I mean by that is no we or someone should or let's keep an eye on it. No, siree. Who owns it? And the fifth, it should increase execution speed after the meeting, not slow it down. That's the biggest test. If your meeting creates more confusion, more follow-up, more duplicated conversations, more side chats, more unresolved tension, and more delay, then the meeting is not helping. It's becoming a friction. A strong meeting should reduce friction in the business. People should leave the meeting knowing what was decided, what was not decided, who owns the next move, what goods look like, when the issue comes back, if it comes back at all. That's it. Simple, clean, useful. And I'll add one more thing because it matters. You see, a good meeting is not one where everyone gets equal airtime. That sounds nice, that sounds fair, it sounds collaborative, but it's not always effective. Different issues require different voices. The goal is not equal contribution, the goal is the right contribution. Sometimes one person needs 2 minutes. Sometimes one issue needs 20. Sometimes the best thing a leader can do is shut up and let the decision maker think. Sometimes the CEO, the MD, needs to stop filling silence and let the room do the work. Leadership meetings are not performance spaces, okay? They're a decision environment. That shift matters. Now, I'm going to give you some decision meeting framework. This is what I use in my own businesses. This is what I use in my departments. This is what I use with the businesses who come to me, then I help them. So, if your meeting have become update heavy, bloated and repetitive or fuzzy, this is the reset I make. So I call it decision meeting framework. I know, right? Because I care about fancy meeting. No, I don't care about fancy meeting because people need a clean way to remember what the meeting is actually for. It's a decision meeting. So here's the structure. Number 1, start with the scoreboard, not stories. So what I mean by that is open with a short view of the numbers or key signals that tell you what is on track and what is not. This is depending on the subject of that meeting. Please stay away from a 30-minute walkthrough, a lecture, just the truth. Where are we off? Where are we exposed? And where are we stuck? This matters because you want the meeting anchored in reality, not personality and some illusion. Number 2 in that framework, only discuss issues that need a decision, escalation, or action. This is a big one. If something is just an FYI, send it before the meeting. If something doesn't need the room, don't bring it to the room. The agenda should be built around the things that require leadership judgment, require decision, require important conversation. That means every agenda item should answer what decision is needed here. If I can't answer that, I challenge whether it belongs to here. Okay? Now, number 3 in that framework is define the issue properly. Half of the meeting waste comes from people discussing a poorly framed problem. So, before the room starts firing opinions around, I want you to get clear on what exactly is the issue? What is the impact? Why now? What is causing it? And what decision is needed? Please stay away from vague waffle. Clean framing. Because if the issue is framed badly, the room solves the wrong thing. And the loop starts. You got to go back to the meeting again. Now, number 4 in our framework is discuss option, not endless context. This is where leaders need discipline. This is the people in the meeting, whoever running the meeting must have the discipline. Do not bring a problem with a 10-minute backstory and no point of view. Bring options, even if they're imperfect. I'm going to give you an example. You can say, we've got a capacity issue in delivery for next 6 months. We got 3 options: delay lower margin work, bring in contract support, or pause new onboarding in this segment. I recommend option 2 because it protects margin and delivery timing. Now, we've got something useful to talk about. That's leadership. Okay? Number 5 in our framework, make the decision in the room. This sounds obvious, but you'd be surprised how often people avoid it. They discuss, they circle, they lean toward, They say things like, let's continue to monitor. Maybe let's revisit it next week. We'll keep working through it. No. If the room has enough information, make the bloody decision. Indecision is often just fear wearing a blazer. Okay, please make the decision in the meeting. Now, number 6 in our framework, assign one owner. Not 3, not shared, not the team. One owner. So that doesn't mean that they will do the work. That's not what I mean when I say assign an owner. What it means is they own the outcome and the next move. Now, number 7 in our meeting framework is end with clear next step. This is a big one too. Before moving on, lock in. What was decided? Who owns it? What happens next? By when? And when it come back if it needed. That closes the loop. That loop matters more than people think. Because without closure, meeting breeds ambiguity. And ambiguity always spills back into execution. That's not good. All right, my friend, that's the framework I use. That's the framework I want you to use. It's simple, but not easy. Okay, because simple systems force people to think clearly, and that's what I love. I like simple. And a lot of messy meetings survives because no one wants to force that discipline. Now, let me talk directly. So CEOs out there, decision makers, MDs, let me talk to you directly for a minute. Because if your meetings are messy, slow, bloated, or indecisive, there is a decent chance you're part of the problem. All right. Just hear me out. Not because you're failing. I'm not saying that. But because the leader always sets the meeting standard, whether they mean to or not. So here's what I see leaders do that weakens meeting quality. Answering too quickly. That's number 1. You hear an issue and you jump in immediately. You solve it too early. You give your view before the room has done enough thinking. That trains dependency. Now, everyone waits for your answer instead of bringing sharper judgment. Number 2, allowing vague language. When someone says in your leadership team meeting, in your meeting, that we've got some challenges, we're seeing a few issues, there have been a bit of pushback, and you let that slide, you're allowing fog into the room. Your job as a CEO, as an MD, as a business owner, as a leader, your job is to ask, what does that mean exactly? How big is it? What's the impact? What decision do you need? Now, number 3, letting updates take over. A lot of leaders, CEOs tolerate this because it feels safer than challenge, right? Updates feel orderly. Decision-making can feel a bit uncomfortable. But leadership, it's not there to preserve comfort. That's not it. It's there to produce movement and outcome for the business. Number 4, refusing to make trade-offs. So this is what I mean by that. A decision is often a trade-off. You cannot protect everyone's priority at once. You cannot say yes to everything. You cannot demand faster growth, perfect delivery, low cost, no risk, and no tension at all the same time. At some point, leadership has to choose. And weak meetings often reveal weak trade-off disciplines. Now, number 5, not closing the loop. The meeting ends, everyone leaves, no one is fully clear. And then the business pays for the fuzziness all week. Your business pays for the fuzziness all week. And that's fixable. But only if you as a leader, you as a CEO, you as an MD, if you treat clarity as part of the leadership not admin job. So if you're listening to this, if you're a CEO, if you're an MD, if you're a leader, an entrepreneur, a business owner, listening to this and thinking, yep, that sounds familiar, good. That awareness, my friend, matters, because one of the fastest way to improve execution in business is not another strategy day, not another offsite, not another dashboard. Sometimes it's just fixing the quality of the room where decisions get made. Now, I want to give you a simple test for your next meeting. So if you think, yeah, I might need to do something about this, I'm going to give you a very simple test. I use it in the customers, the clients that I have. And so at the end of your next leadership meeting or your meeting, ask these 5 questions. What decisions did we make? What problems got clearer? Who owns the next move on each issue? What changed because we came to this meeting? And could half of this have been handled without a meeting? You always have to ask the last question, always. Because it's a bit that stings, but that's the point. Because if the answer is yes, then you found the waste. And once you find waste, don't just notice it, do something about it. Strip the meeting back, redesign it, shorten it, split it, or, my favorite, kill it. But stop tolerating calendar habit that makes leadership slower, makes your business slower. Your team watches what you normalize. If you normalize bloated meetings, vague thinking, and unresolved issues, that becomes part of how the business operates. If you normalize clarity, ownership, challenge, and the decision, that becomes part of the business too. That is why this matters more than people think. This is not just a meeting issue, it's an operating issue. And if you want a business that scales cleanly, your leadership rhythm cannot be built on updates, drifts, and repeat conversations. It has to be built on truth, decision, and follow through. So let's wrap this up. I know there was a lot in here, so let's wrap it up. If your meetings don't produce outcome, they're not harmless. They're costing the business time, money, energy, and momentum. And no, the answer is not another prettier agenda template and a few nicer check-in questions. The answer is getting brutally honest about what the meeting is for. Because updates, remember this, updates aren't leadership. Leadership is clarity. Leadership is choice. Leadership is trade-offs. Leadership is making the call, and sometimes the hard ones. Leadership is creating movement and outcome. That's the standard. So take the hard look at your meetings. Which ones are actually helping? Which ones are just rituals? Which ones are slowly down the business while pretending it's supporting it? And where do you need to stop talking about the work and actually make the damn decision? That's the work. Thank you for hopping on a soapbox with me today. It's always good to have your company here with me. If this episode hit a nerve, made something click, or called out something that you've been tolerating in your business for way too long, make sure you subscribe and share it with someone else who needs to hear it. And if your business is growing, but execution still feels messy, slow, or harder than it should, reach out to me on LinkedIn, because this is the kind of stuff I help leaders fix. Not with fluff and not with theory, with real operating clarity that helps the business move. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and maybe stop inviting people to meeting that should have been a bloody email. Bye for now.